Teladoc is probably one of the worst trades, if not the worst trade I've ever made. So I just wanted to go through that, analyze what I did, and go through some key learnings. So yeah, this was a huge loss for me. I think I lost 10% of my account on it. All sorts of things I did wrong on this. So yeah, a bit embarrassing, but so what we're here to do is to learn. So put things into context, sort of in this base here, and then sort of broke out really nicely as a pandemic in early 2020 kicked off. Teladoc is telemedicine, made sort of total sense, you'd think, for this thing to fly, and it did, like a lot of other work from home stocks did. So I essentially did trades in three different buckets. The first one was this trade, buy, sell, sell. This is a bit of a nothing trade. I bought it here. Stops were hit here. I took it, just traded, so sold 50% of the stock there, and then sold the other 50% there. So I made a little bit of money on that trade. This next trade, bought it in this, so this is a weekly chart, so it's a little bit sort of distorted. Bought it in this week here, got stopped out here, so lost money there. And then the really big doozy is this one here. So I bought it in early 2021, so around about, I think it was 230 something, and then rolled over with the rest of the growth sort of sector. Didn't take my stop, which was must have been just here somewhere. Finally started coming to my senses, selling here. Looks like I've tried to bottom feed this one a little bit, and then sold the rest of that package out here. So this overall, I sort of consider to be one trade. So absolutely sort of shocking result for me on that one. Lots of learning from here. The first one is, I sold the last at a bit at 142, I think it was, and yeah, look at it. It's just halved again. So just absolutely extraordinary. So as painful as it's been, it sort of saved myself a pain by coming to my senses when I did. So I want to go over a few points here. These squiggly lines are probably where I should have been buying. It's like I said, it's just coming out of a nice base here on volume at that point. And then also as a pandemic's kicking off, this thing was a top performer in a market that was starting. I was only sort of just starting to fall apart, I guess, in January, but still doing really well on good volume. This is pushing up to all-time highs here. So you can see, here is 77 to 80, sorry, to 94. Instead, I bought it sort of way later after it set up a huge stage 2 thrust. So the first thing for me is I needed to do a better job at buying it as it's coming out of its base. It was a nice long base, much lower risk, rather than buying it at a much later stage when I did. So as a result of buying it later, I was sort of buying it more towards a stage 3, which means more volatility, more distribution, so therefore more likely to get chopped around, which is exactly what I did. Got chopped around here in this trade. Like I say, it made a little bit, but nothing. Shouldn't have even really sort of bothered. And again here, bought here, huge volatility, just gets stopped out. And the next one here is, I bought it, I say this is around about the 18th of January. Now, obviously in hindsight it was a huge mistake, but since I've done this trade and a bunch of others, I've worked a lot on my sort of market model, and if I'd had just overlaid a market model, that would have been telling me actually very clearly that the market was getting too hot. I was actually in an amber phase. I should have been selling holdings, certainly not buying. Because remember, like the whole Bitcoin thing was going crazy. I think people on a sugar high from 2020. However, the advanced decline was starting to show divergence. There was distribution in key stocks, so there was actually warning signs of more danger ahead. And I actually just totally ignored that, and I think I was up like 20-30% at the start of that year, like in a month. So I thought, right, I'm going to go for it and really let that aggression sort of get to my head. And then did absolutely nothing about it when it rolled over. And I was sort of moving to sort of buy and long-term hold sort of thinking. And again, what a mistake. Sort of let the psychology of rising stock prices sort of fool me into thinking that buy and hold at any price is the way to go. So I thought, you know what, when it rolled over, it's probably nothing too bad. I'll just ignore the stop. And boy, did I pay for that. Just went through just a shocking sort of period here. Finally started selling here. That was before earnings. Now, I did buy a few puts, but in the bigger scheme of things, doesn't really mean a whole lot. Yeah, sold the rest there. And then, yeah, like I say, finally came to my senses and sold the rest out there. So during this time, I was starting to also, apart from just the buy and sort of permanently hold, it's also starting to fall for those sort of Twitter anecdotes that someone said, oh, so-and-so saw a doctor on Teladoc and it was amazing and never go back to a GP's, and it was just BS. A, you don't know if it's true, and B, these anecdotes are just little data points that don't necessarily mean a whole lot. When the chart was telling you that this thing was under distributed, look at the volume there, this thing was under distribution, I start to be very concerned. Okay. It doesn't show so much here on the weekly, but on the daily, the moving averages are starting to roll over. Touched on before how volatility was getting high. You can see distribution kicking in. So there are all signs of a stage 3 top. The other thing I've noticed in some stocks is that, well, you think it's in a stage 3 here, but it might just power on to be another, essentially a new stage 1 and then a new stage 2, which is what I thought was happening here. What can happen is it can just suck you in here. So DocuSign and Fastly were sort of similar, where it looked like it was in a base and pushing out, and then it sort of rolled over. So these sort of last gasp sort of run-ups can be actually pretty dangerous. And again, now that I've got more context, I'm sort of looking at the overall market. We've come out of this pandemic low. Stocks have had a huge move. A lot of sort of stage 3 type things appearing to happen, distribution. So even though you think it might be stage 2, and it might actually be fine to take the trade, but just be on guard that it could actually be wrong, and this could be stage 3 ready to really roll over and just get out quick smart. If I got out sort of, here-ish, sort of, yeah, sure, took a loss, but would have been sort of nothing compared to the damage that I did. Okay, so they're probably the main things. So I guess just to summarize for myself, be very aware of whereabouts the overall market, the market is. Take my model into account, go through all the sort of different factors on there, such as emotional sort of comments you're seeing on Twitter. Is it almost sort of panic buying or panic selling? Where are stocks in relation to their 200-day moving average? Where are stocks in relation to their 50-day? How many are above or below their 50-day? Sort of got a whole list of things there. Be much more sort of acutely aware of that. And I think take action on a stock, well, actually be selling under strength if the market itself is not looking good. So instead of waiting for the actual stock to roll over, I've found you can actually you might as well just, if your market analysis is not bad, just use the opportunity just to be selling under strength when everyone thinks it's going much higher. Yeah, and the other thing was just be a lot more in my game. Why I wasn't buying it way back here, I actually don't have an answer. I sort of nickel and dimed it all through here. Could have made an absolute fortune coming out of late 2019, early 20 in this stock. And yeah, fit the thematic very well with the pandemic. It was sort of one of those wonder stocks that could have made just a huge amount of money, especially buying some out of the money calls, which is my preference. And then yeah, be harvesting going into these sorts of periods where it's basing, it's distribution, things are getting a bit sloppier, market's starting to look a bit more tight, getting further away from the major sort of pandemic low of the indexes, which is March, sorry, yeah, around here, even a bit later. Yeah, so that's it.